Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade, focused on student support and digital experience. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology who will be bringing you their perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping the way we recruit, engage, and graduate learners. You'll hear firsthand accounts of how institutional leaders are developing their strategy, as well as get deeper on the stories of how these EdTech tools are being built to foster better student outcomes. With that, let's get to today's episode. Greetings and welcome back, everyone, to another bonus live episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, recorded here at ASU+GSV in sunny San Diego. We are here with a member of the University of Phoenix team. They've been generous enough to host us for this recording in their kind of conference suite here. So excited to talk with you, Raghu, about just kind of the work happening at University of Phoenix. And I know I've interacted with some members of your team at your booth and stuff, and just been just a great experience kind of learning more of what's happening at your institution there. But if you want to briefly introduce yourself to kind of kick us off, talk about your background, and then we'll talk more about University of Phoenix.
Sounds good. First of all, thank you, Dustin, for having me here today. And thanks for taking time to learn a bit about the university. It's a fascinating place, as I'm sure you found out. I've been at the university about 10 years, and I joined here from another university whose name I shall not mention. But no, I've been in higher ed only about 15 years. My background has been a mix of technology, business services, financial services. I mean, in some ways, I've been a precursor to what everyone talks about now, which is the people coming out of college now are going to have multiple jobs and multiple careers. I kind of lived that whole thing. I grew up with two parents who are both educators, and so I became very familiar with traditional higher ed, and I found that was not my niche. And when I found this type of ed, which works for working adults and people who don't have the same opportunities I had, I really became fascinated by it, and I love what I do. So that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll talk a lot around kind of the primary topic here, using AI to help identify and address skill gaps. And there'll be obviously lots of kind of different nuances there. But, kind of a noteworthy milestone, just to give honorable mention here, University of Phoenix enjoying a 50th anniversary. And I'm just curious, obviously, been there the whole 50 years, but you've been there a decent while. Like,
not that old.
Yeah, if you want to just kind of talk more, obviously you're kind of alluding to, it being an institution that serves and has served adult learners for a long time, but just talking, more about what you feel like makes University of Phoenix unique, and anything that you kind of have surmised or kind of understood about the university, reflecting back on its 50-year journey.
So the university was founded on the principle that everyone should have access to learning that can help them advance in their career, even if they can't go through a traditional route to get there. And that has powered the university since its very start, and it powers it today. And as we know, it's like when you try to do something different, you're always try to find new ways and better ways to do things. And we've leaned into that as kind of an ethos, right? We're not happy with the status quo. We always want to get better. We always want to do better for those that we help and those that we serve. And we've shown over the years that innovation through technology, through data now and now through AI, are ways to lean in. If you lean in on that, you can improve your outcomes for those you serve, and you can also better the lives of those that are with them along the way. So if you look at it, university was the first to roll out and become focused just on the working adult population, people who have families, already have a job, but need something different in order to move forward. They were the first to roll out online education, and as you know, for a long time, people didn't really believe in it. I think the pandemic showed that this is really a really rigorous and real learning environment. And now I think we're one of the first to really roll out and really talk about how do you make that linkage between workplace and learning and individual desire all come together. And we're leaning that very heavily. And I think that's really where the future is going to be. I think AI is going to not only force everyone to start thinking that way, but it will also be the mechanism by which we can actually enable that to occur.
Yeah. And I think, kind of how you're framing it, like, to me, it's always really compelling seeing the folks that were like, sort of early adopters in a sense, like sort of, especially with that kind of use case of the instance of, online education, digital education, the folks that were like making those investments early, the pandemic disruptions were not, felt so acutely and everything. And certainly, nowadays it's, how different institutions are really building an intentional AI strategy, whether it's, just maybe primarily helping them with their operations, or if they're embedding it into the curriculum of like, what they're teaching and how they're teaching, or, anything like that. But like I said, I think, the kind of noteworthy work happening at University of Phoenix, using AI to help identify and address skill gaps. And I think, just kind of take that as you will, I guess, because we'll stick with this question for a bit, I think, to kind of just extrapolate it on it, but just start out kind of high level. How is your institution using AI to address those skill gaps?
Yeah. And as you mentioned, 50 years, I mean, it's kind of proven that innovation is where you have to go, and it does work, right? We have 1.2 million graduates to kind of show it also, which is more important than anything else that I can ever say and talk about. We've been using AI for years. And I think people are surprised when they hear that AI has been around for a long time. And I think people use it in everyday lives don't even realize they're using AI in some ways, right? A chatbot is an AI tool. And no one recognized that thing. And, airlines have been using chatbots for eons, right? Banks have been using it to do pricing on stocks for a long time. It's a nice thing. So we use AI in multiple different places and have all along the way. Primarily, I'd say we started it to really identify people who were most at risk of being able to succeed academically, to help find solutions for them. And that was probably the most important use case that we had within it. Now, as AI becomes prevalent in pretty much every job, in all companies that we see and we talk to, and every job, even within the university, we've realized that you have to make it part of the everyday conversation. Whether it's part of the job or part of the learning, it has to be embedded. So several years ago, we laid the foundation for this to occur. We converted all of our courseware into skills. And we assessed every single skill using very rigorous analytics as to make sure people really learn that skill. AI becomes a skill. So now we have AI embedded in all our courseware as a skill that's being measured around it. And our learning is very applied. It's not just a theoretical. Our professors and our faculty, they all work in their fields that they teach in. I think our average faculty member's got at least 20 years of experience in the field. So they're bringing the real world experience into it. And our curriculum is built based upon all that real world experience. So our students are getting that from day one. And so instead of just reading a book and sort of, doing some examples, that experience is brought into the classroom and they're learning sort of how to apply it. So that's kind of, to me, the most important part around AI is being used within it. The second part is we've realized that AI, there's a gap between what employers believe they're getting from people who are graduating and what individuals are saying they are getting, and what educators are saying they're providing around it, right? So you have to find a way to make sure that different groups and the different languages they're talking are all going to talk the same thing. So we built a series of technologies that allows us to effectively align those languages, so that whatever we say you learn, whatever the individual says they have, the employer can see and validate, yes, that matches what we want, what we need on it. And so we're leaning into AI, using AI to kind of do that. Right? And you like fight fire with fire, you fight AI with AI. You have to use AI to kind of do this. And so we lean into AI in that way as well. And then like we're an organization like any other organization, we also want to be able to operate internally using AI and get the benefits of it. And so we've taken on and by trained all our people on using AI. We're deploying it across a lot of our processes. Still early days. And, we have to be cautious in many ways because AI still isn't an advanced technology. In some ways, still has its flaws. But we are very cognizant that it can be a benefit, and we're experimenting, learning, testing, trying, and putting it out wherever we can.
Yeah, and I think, it is just, I feel like, with AI right now, it's like, you got to be starting somewhere. The idea that like we're doing it, we're, keeping kind of, a clear mind about it, that idea of like, there's going to be limitations. It's not perfect. We just need to be kind of thoughtful and intentional about it. But, you can't be ignoring it, and you can't be in terms of like, oh yeah, we're paying attention to it. We're banning it across the board. You're like, just no one can use it ever and whatever, because it's like, I feel like on one side, you probably wouldn't be able to like, universally, enforce that. But, it is a moment where, it's sort of like, we're teaching about AI with AI, and there's just, like so much kind of influence across kind of the board of an institution. internally, externally. And I do think it is really, again, kind of where we started, the idea of identifying and addressing skill gaps. Like it would be something where it's like, well, we could have done this before, but it would have been so laborious to be trying to like, you know, kind of, you know, match all these things up and verify them or whatever else. But, you know, it is that idea of, you know, on one hand, it's maybe in some cases that you have to fundamentally change, you know, all the things that you're teaching. It's just like, no, we can now like just quantify it that much better and much more kind of, you know, in kind of a verified way so that employers know what they're getting is valid and students know like, okay, if I want to get there, then I need to do these things that get me the skills that are, you know, kind of explicitly laid out in, you know, the job descriptions or, you know, whatever else. So I think, yeah, just that. I mean, that's obviously like been like a huge use case for AI across the board. It's just that sort of like analytical piece to kind of just gather together all these data points and say, yeah, you need to kind of hit these milestones to get to a certain place and, you know, maybe kind of, you know, track you along the way and, yeah, just help students kind of know the path.
And there's the one point you made along the way. So if you look at sort of where marketing used to be, every CFO used to hate talking to marketing because marketing can never tell them every dollar they spent, what they actually got from it. Marketing is now very digital. You can pretty much tell if you spend $5 doing something, what your return is going to be. That's kind of where we're now able to do with AI. We can now talk to individuals' capabilities, and I can actually take the same mindset and say, if I invest X dollars in you, I know what I'm going to get at the end of the day with you because I can now measure all that stuff. And so these are tools that we're actually trying to talk with employers around as to how can you use these type of tools to help drive your own productivity and growth. And where it gets really, I think, hits the rubber hits the road type of thing. We run this survey every year. I'm sure you heard of it, Career Optimism Index.
Yes.
We ran a new one this year. It's our 6th year of it. And this year, the results were somewhat surprising, although not totally. It did show that employees, for the most part, really like AI, and they're playing with it. But I guess what was surprising is employers have realized that they're not giving their employees the growth opportunities once they know it. So what's highlighting right away is a hidden risk of when opportunities open up, these individuals are going to be in high demand. They're going to pop. Right. Now, you already saw this in Silicon Valley. Anyone who knew how to code and knew the 2 letters of AI and their coding skills, they were getting a lot of money to move to from one company to another. And there's poaching going everywhere. That same dynamic could happen here very soon. So while we talk about, all the press keeps saying about people aren't moving, they're afraid, I don't buy that theory. I actually think that, and what the survey actually shows is that they're just building the capabilities. And when things open up, they're going to be the first ones to go.
Yeah. I want to make sure we kind of gave tip of the hat to that index, the Career Optimism Index, which we'll link out to in the episode description. So folks they should definitely check it out. Because that was something when I was at your booth, kind of was engaging with your team on and some of those, noteworthy kind of stats and everything. And because, I think it is, and I I did a little soundbite, I think, it'll be in a video, I think that you all put out, but the question really did get me thinking kind of to what you're saying, the idea of, that there is a sizable portion of employees that are sort of considering moving on from whatever their current role is, a kind of self-reported, data point. And the kind of soundbite that I was reflecting on when I did that was, do you think that is a talent retention problem or a leadership problem? And I think it's that idea of people are playing around with these things. They're, kind of seeing, what it's all like and kind of doing kind of self-guided building of kind of their AI literacy. And it is that idea of I know now that this is a super valuable tool. I'm going to need to have, a skill set here if I'm going to, be successful in my role, get to where I want to be. Is my current employer give me good guidance, give me good support, or am I just doing this kind of rogue and, trying to figure it all out on my own or whatever? So I think that's something, I guess it's sort of spinning in my head, I guess, is that, very much on kind of, that employer side in a sense of that, we're all going to be lifelong learners, continually, in different forms and shapes. And one way it certainly is going to be, how can any sort of organization, leverage educational partners to try to help, nurture those things.
I think you hit on something though critical, is that people are viewing this as a technology problem, and whether it's leadership or individuals, they're viewing it as, well, my technology is not there. I need to build a technology. And yes, you need the technology, but I'd say more importantly, because frankly, the technology is much easier to integrate now than prior technologies have been in the past. It's really a people problem, right? You have to make sure that the people can move at the same pace or even faster than the rest of the organization moves. And you then make sure that your rest of the organization keeps up with the people. So And it's a bit of a chicken and egg because not everyone is an early adopter of the technology. A fair portion are. Others want to wait and see, which is normal. But those wait and see is you have to bring them along very quickly because their job is changing and they may not even realize that the job's already changed. And so the question is, how do you, as an organization, understand the pace of this? How do you message that? How do you show the rest of your employees the pace of that? And then empower them to help move the organization more quickly towards it. Because I think about it just from the university perspective, is how do we move faster? I mean, we move fairly quick. I don't want to compare it to traditional other players who may not have the same capacities that we do. I compare ourselves to a tech company. And the pace they move, I'm a snail compared to them. But I need to move more and more like them in the future if I'm going to be successful in helping both employers and individuals keep up and keep ahead of the changes that are coming their way.
Yeah, and I think just because I wanted to make sure I kind of was like tying in another piece of this, because I think it's the idea of, students today are kind of like seeing these dynamics happening and,
Right.
Likely anticipating them and looking to their, institutions of higher learning to be facilitating this for them to be in a good position as they're seeing other folks, be kind of going on these journeys to build these skill sets and everything. But yeah, so I think, it's a lot of stuff because I wanted to like kind of, I think we already kind of hit on this, that idea of like, why is all this so important? It is really that idea of, people being in good positions to understand, what is it that they need to know and how are they going to know it? How are they going to learn it in terms of utilizing these new technologies and platforms and everything?
I think even the bigger problem is societal, right? Because, we've seen this in the past. The people who aren't able to get access to the knowledge they need to keep up with the changes that are happening technology-wise aren't going to be able to really be part of the employment picture and the economic picture going forward. And that's a problem. We can't leave people behind. We have to make sure everyone has a chance to succeed in this world. So, that's what keeps me up at night is like, how do we solve for that? And I like big problems, and this is a little bigger than I thought, but it's a big problem. It's a fun problem to go after.
Yeah. And I think I'm kind of, reassured to a point that I feel like, the building of AI literacy seems to be really part of the conversation, really kind of at this like genesis of like, okay, this is here and it's here to stay. Like, how are we sort of, kind of interfacing with it where like, in the past there was like huge kind of digital literacy gaps and everything. Which I think I don't know, for conflicts of factors, and it's a whole other podcast episode, but I think it's just that idea of like, like with any of this stuff where people can, become much more gainfully employed and whatever else, it's like, we just don't want to leave people behind and just be, make things as accessible as possible in terms of, the ways to learn these skills. And, obviously University of Phoenix, having a pedigree of online education and, serving adult learners and all these sort of things. It's like, all of that to be said, I think it's, you all kind of being a model for others to follow and kind of take inspiration from in terms of being more attuned to those learners' needs and kind of building of, digital education portfolios and such at institutions. But
we also want to take it one step further. I want to bring along the other schools. I don't want them left behind because we need every single one to work together, right? We need the schools, the governments, policymakers, we need everybody kind of working in sync. So the more that I can leverage our capabilities to help them also become part of this, I think the easier it's going to be to solve this problem holistically around the country.
Yeah, definitely. So as we're winding down, I'm curious just what trend lines you're following. What are you seeing on the horizon for your work? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so obviously this what's coming. I love the world when there's so much opportunity available, right? And then you can shape it and try different things and see where it's going. For us, it's about how do we just do more and better what we're doing. We're continuously trying to find ways to reduce the price for students, and we've been doing that for years, and we're going to continue to do that. We want, we're always finding ways to ensure that they can learn at the pace and ideally ahead of the pace of the need of the employment space around it. We're working to try to create more seamless, friction-free pathways between learning and earning. And you mentioned earlier continuous learning and lifelong learning. That's got to be formed, right? And it can't be hard to do that. It's got to be very simple and seamless for that to happen. We want to make sure that we engage all parties to make that happen. So I'd say it's a lot of what we've been doing. And just so now can we light it on fire and make it happen using AI to help us do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will end with the question we're asking everybody as we're wrapping up these interviews. Advice that you would give to other higher ed leaders navigating this moment.
Yeah, I think this, higher ed, it's got a lot of different players involved in it. I'd say my advice is work with those other players as much as possible, right? Because you'll be surprised how much everyone else wants to work with you. As I mentioned before, I came from this industry from financial services. And the one thing I really loved right away is how quickly people embraced helping you out and finding ways to help you, right? And also how much other people are willing to give back once they do that. So I encourage everyone in higher ed, no matter what role you have, look for those opportunities, reach out to others to ask for help if you need it, but also give it back in return, because this is going to be a great snowball effect that's going to help everyone.
You want to go far, go together.
Right.
Just appreciate you hanging out and sharing all that you did. Like I said, I'll have links to the Career Optimism Index, yourself, and just if folks want to learn more about University of Phoenix in the episode description. Yeah, just really great talking to you.
Thanks, Dustin. Great getting to know you.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Geek podcast. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.